Once you're confident in making chains longer than 10, it's time to take your Puyo game to the next level by fighting your opponent with harassment chains. In a real match, you shouldn't let your opponent comfortably make a 10 chain against you. When you see a chance, convert some of your Puyos into a quick harassment to hit your opponent's chain at their weak points. Weak points tend to appear whenever a chain requires a lot of Puyos of specific colors in a specific order. Look at this again. Do you see how player 1 just didn't get the yellows and purples they wanted? Be on the lookout for opportunities like this. Read your opponent's chain and predict what kind of chain they plan on making. Then, calculate the probability your opponent will get all the Puyo colors they need within the time frame of your harassment. If the probability is low, gamble some Puyos on a quick chain and attack. I know it feels kind of bad to have your stylish 10 chains ruined, but this is how real Puyo battles are fought. Let me give you another example. Let's pause here. Pretend you're player 1. Currently, you have a 3-chain harassment prepared with the yellows, purples, and blues. Your backup plan is to complete the greens and yellows in the leftmost column for a 10 chain. Now, look at your opponent and figure out what they're up to. They sort of have a 3-chain they could use to defend against your harassment with the yellows, purples, and blues. Their alternative plan is probably to complete the turnaround in the leftmost columns with the greens, yellows, and purples for a 9-chain. With the board state analyzed, calculate the risk involved in harassing your opponent with your 3-chain. If the opponent reacts with their 3-chain, you have the advantage. Do you notice how your 3-chain will use up more purple Puyos? Your opponent won't defend themselves completely. Alternatively, they'll try to complete the greens and yellows for the 9-chain. But look at the pieces they have coming up in the next window. For the 9-chain to work, they need to get 2 greens, 2 yellows, and a purple within the next 3 seconds. That does not look like it's going to happen. So to summarize, either your opponent will go barely even with your harassment, or they'll get KO'd because they definitely won't finish their chain in time. The odds are in your favor, so attack. Here's another example of using harassments to gain the advantage. Take a look at this. Your opponent is probably planning a chain like so. But do you see how that small 1-chain covers up the yellow trigger in column 1? To survive this, your opponent is going to need 2 blues and 3 yellows to make something like this. A little unlikely, but it's not impossible. So before they get the chance to save themselves, seal off their chain with a follow-up harassment. Keep in mind that these are just some examples I made up. In a real match, your opponent will be reading your chain and trying to harass you too. Trade attacks and protect your board until you gain the advantage. Do you see how the purple GTR doesn't connect to the green, blue, and purple tail? Personally, I don't see a practical way for the opponent to make this chain work anymore, and even if it did, it'll probably just max out at like a 5 or a 6 chain. You've pretty much disabled your opponent's chain. Don't risk any more harassments. Set off your long chain and finish them. Harassments are powerful tools for a Puyo player. They can let you straight up knock out your opponent, steal off their chains, or put pressure on them until they make a mistake. I know these decision trees seem way too complicated to think about during a match, but trust me, after you fight a lot of strong opponents, you'll eventually develop the battle instincts you need to become a Puyo master.